Quiet down, quiet down. Welcome to an introduction to foreign studies. My name is Professor Hodāstouk, and I have spent the last handful of years travelling to lands yet unmapped by the men of any territory east of the Green Peaks. This is the first among hopefully many presentations of my discoveries, provided, of course, if the men in the cloisters allow me to continue my lectures. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to the horse lords of Eroán. Eroan, as the local peoples call this land, is the westernmost extent of the great steppe that spans our continent. It is split away from the wider plains occupied by the Eroan and other nomads by two great inland seas, and is bordered on the west and south by mountains and vast forests, respectively. I believe that the land is further north than our own, for the winters are colder and rain is as common as the grass underfoot, and rolling hills are abundant there, carved up by great rivers which divide the land into the realms of the four kings. Despite these rivers, the Eroane here rarely take to the water, relying more on fords and crossings than ships or ferries to carry them over bodies of water. In place of the waterborne vessels we favour, horses facilitate every aspect of their way of life. From a young age, Eroane are taught to ride and calm them, and those who cannot are among the lowest in their society. Trade and travel and tradition are centred around these great beasts, the likes of which you would not find in any of the lands around the Bay of Stone. The people who inhabit this land are typically of lithe build and swarthy features, but it is not uncommon to see both men and women with blue eyes among them. Men are expected to shave thoroughly and maintain clear appearances at all times. To have stubble is often seen as a sign of a brutish or slovenly appearance. Men of certain stations are also expected to wear the symbols of that station at all times. To not do so can be seen as anything from disrespecting the honour of their position to an outright rejection of their society. The expectations for the appearance of women are more often less strict than that of men, but it is traditional that they only cut their hair once a year. The Eroane are ruled by four kings, each of whom command many lords who rule fiefdoms. They roam their lands on horseback, and them and their entourages form travelling courts which dispense justice, collect taxes, and call up soldiers. The foremost among these lords take up residences in great halls, which command strategic positions and provide some of the greatest wealth out of any of these fiefdoms. Unlike our own society, it seems as though the Eroane operate under a meritocracy, where those who show the most promise are elevated to higher stations. That is not to say, however, that a man or woman born of any position in life can rise from the lowest ranks to the highest. Many political dynasties have been formed within the upper echelons, and the kings themselves seem to have mostly come from only a few families within their cultural memory. The lords come together upon the death of their king to elect his successor from among their ranks in an event known as Menan-Anen. They have only a week to decide, however, before tradition dictates that the king's successor must light his funeral pyre and begin his rule. Storytellers and historians of the people have many tales of the misfortune that falls on a realm if this ritual is not upheld. However, I personally find many of them to be quite dubious. It is common for the kings to wage war upon one another, often as a display of dominance, most particularly the kings of Llok and Asterokinotantell, as they have no geographical boundary between their lands. Due to the two northern kingdoms of Llok and Enasakhaemi being separated by rivers, it is rare for their borders to change, so it is rare that their conflicts extend beyond border raids and light skirmishes. In fact, for these two kingdoms, it is far more common for the king to have to settle disputes between his lords than lead a war against his neighbours. You may have noticed that, up to this point, I have mostly referred to those Eroane who hold positions of power in their society as being men. They operate under more strict roles for men and women than we do, and while women can wield power in the form of being holders of land, owning property, or trading goods, they cannot be horse lords or king over men. What is common, however, is that almost all of the few who can read and write in their society are women. Frequently because, in the absence of the ability to rule over people, they serve as accountants and record keepers and bureaucrats in the governments of the Eroane. Religion is an arcane topic when it comes to the Eroane. While I was in their lands, I was accompanied by a guide at all times, and when I requested to view their religious ceremonies, I was either flatly refused or ignored. From what I could glean by observation, however, it seems that they practice monogamous marriage, which is represented by wearing a yellow or orange sash, and that they worship only a few gods which govern the various aspects of their lives. Incense of some form is frequently used in worship, and I believe that different scents may be associated with different gods, but of those I had smelled none that were familiar to me. My guides did make many references to certain names in their speech, which I assumed to be idiomatic phrases involving their gods, but it was hard for me to tell as they attempted to guard such expressions from my ears. Their speech, however, used few consonants and many vowels, and during my time there I managed to pick up on some of the basics, though even after much practice I often found myself unable to tell between certain vowels that we do not possess in our own tongue. They placed their verbs at the beginning of the sentence at all times, which gave their language to me a very questioning character, as I myself am so used to that structure meaning a question. Despite this, their tongue was among the most beautiful I had heard while away, particularly when they were speaking among themselves and not attempting to make their words clear for my benefit. It was common for those of a lower station to speak to those above them with the term anax at the end of every sentence. I believe this word may mean something akin to lord, or respected one, as they referred to the lords on horseback as anax tikoseni, lord of horses, while referring to the lords in halls as anax ian ansor, lord upon the hill, and the king as anax tikosteuxni, lord of many horses at all times. It was from this title that I thought of the idea to officially name their people as the Horse Lords of Eroan in my treatise that I submitted to the men in the cloisters, and after which this lecture was titled. I would like to thank you all for attending, and hope to see your faces at my next lecture on my travels. Until that day, may you walk under sunlight and never in shadow.
Hi there. I just want to thank you greatly for watching the video all the way through to the end. It's my first, obviously, and I hope to make many more in the future. Thank you. Hwyl fawr.